Hey guys, this is Charles Blair, the Mad Scientist, with
Agent Cory Banks, Realtor 007.
And I have a special drive-by video for you today. It's featuring my man, the #1 investor-friendly agent in the nation, Mr. Cory Banks. We're going to go over exactly why you need an investor-friendly agent and exactly how that type of agent can help you make big bucks. Cory, tell everybody exactly who you are.
Well, as I said, I'm Agent Cory Banks, Realtor 007, and yes, I am an investor-friendly agent who started off as an investor and got my license, and I mainly work and consult with investors on helping them maximize their money when it comes to deals.
Now, Cory's being a little bit modest because he's also an investor himself. He just said that. But he's an investor that has all the makings of a transaction engineer. So he can bring that whole part of how you formulate deals and how you take a deal and mold it into different exit strategies, as well as how to help you find the best deals for your buck. Now, Cory, tell people why they would want to find an investor-friendly agent to begin with.
Well, a lot of times when you're dealing with agents, they know mainly the retail side, and they're looking at the numbers based off of the retail side. But a lot of times they may not understand the numbers on looking at the ARV, looking at the repair cost, looking and asking the important questions, or knowing the important questions when it comes to knowing your numbers, mortgage payments, like I said, repair cost, and just different things like that.
So who is your ideal person to work with? Is it a new investor, experienced investor, or all of the above?
It was all of the above for me. With the experienced investors, of course, they're more self-sufficient. They're just looking at the numbers. With the newer investor, they're looking at it from the perspective of learning and also teaching them the numbers, but then having a network to help them with getting through certain deals. A rehabber, an investor who's looking to rehab, they may need a crew, or they may need financing, different things like that. So I work with different spectrums.
So I noticed a couple of the deals that you are working on right now. You got a BRR strategy deal that you're working with, and you got another investor that is working with you on a deal that you're basically overseeing it for them because they're a new investor.
Right.
So
exactly.
How does that play into what you do as an agent, but you can also put on that investor hat?
Well, as an agent, of course, it's certain things that fall under being a real estate agent, and then some of these things fall out of the definition of what a real estate agent is. So, of course, based off of what falls under the real estate agent, looking at understanding the numbers and getting the numbers over to the investor, finding different deals and listing the property, and all that good stuff. But however, on the investor side, and then it becomes more consulting as well. So when outside of the agent part, now I start to consult with the newer investor, where not understanding the numbers, not understanding days on market, but then also needing a contractor, because the original contractor she had, I don't know what happened, but she needed a contractor. So now having that network of knowing how to find a contractor, or already having contractors, also knowing the whole dealing with the permits, with a lot of new investors fall victim to, where they get caught up trying to get the permits and stop work orders and all that other stuff. So preventing from those situations as well.
Now, we talk about being a transaction engineer, and I know that you are a transaction engineer as well. Talk about one of the actual nuances that you bring to the table when it comes to exit strategies and looking at deals that your clients are looking at.
So I had one client who's actually a retail buyer, and they were looking to purchase a new property. But the problem was, their current property where they were living in, it just wasn't selling. And it wasn't because of the numbers. It was actually stupid reasons of falling out of contract, which now made the property look like it was stale on the market. So now she sees a property she wanted to put a contract, and having the conversation with the lender, the lender said, well, if we could at least rent it out, then we could get the deal done. Okay, no problem. Based off of the numbers with this particular seller, having the conversation, we then ended up working on a subject to strategy where they could rent it out because they didn't want to be a landlord, but at some point the property would be sold. So then we started to work on the subject to strategy, where with that particular strategy, taking over the deed, we take care of the mortgage payments. The property is now rented out, and now this seller is able to obtain their loan in order to buy the new home and not worry about the home that did not sell.
So that type of deal is something that a new investor wouldn't have no idea how to maneuver through that process.
Exactly.
Now, let's revert back to my original questioning early on. Why would somebody say, or how can you identify if the agent you have is an investor-friendly agent, and does it really matter?
Well, let me start with the last question first. Yes, it does matter whether you're working with an investor-friendly agent, because when you're working with an investor-friendly agent versus a regular retail agent, you're looking for deals. And most of the time, a retail agent, they're only looking at deals on the MLS. Everybody's looking at deals on the MLS. But being an investor-friendly agent and also being starting off as an investor first, knowing how to find those off-market deals and knowing how to negotiate those deals. That's one. Knowing what numbers to look for, knowing how to maneuver through a deal or a situation that a deal is having. So that's why it's important to work with an investor-friendly agent, because you have that extra support and to help you through these situations and to help grow your business. What was the first question though?
How do you know the person is an investor-friendly agent?
And how do you know an agent is an investor-friendly agent? I mean, through conversations, certain questions. If they don't know about the ARV, or they don't know how to calculate the ARV, if they don't know how to calculate repair costs, they're saying, oh, well, the repair is only $40,000, and then you go and find out it's actually $120,000. If they don't have a certain network, if they don't understand how a property should be listed, the time frames, and just everything that goes into working with the deal, then more than likely that person is not an investor-friendly agent.
Now, that doesn't mean that person isn't a good agent. It just means that person isn't a good agent for an investor.
Right.
That agent may be an agent that is used to working with homeowners.
Exactly.
And it's a total different nuance from going from a homeowner type of transaction and an investor transaction.
Exactly.
And that's exactly what Cory's trying to say. That we're not trying to knock agents.
Not at all.
A lot of agents call themselves investor-friendly, but they have yet to work with a single investor, and they know the textbook way of pulling comps. But when you're working as an investor, when you are an investor, we don't use the textbook way that they teach you inside being a real estate agent.
Exactly. I mean, so when we're running comps and looking at the numbers, we're looking at not only the ARV, what the property sold for, but we're also looking at the condition of the property. Because, for instance, if a property is just a standard or is not updated, and you have these 3 properties that's been sold and they have been updated, and those 3 properties sold at 185, and you wouldn't tell your client, oh, well, this property in this condition will sell at 185. No, that means that we need to get that property in that condition so it can sell at 185. But here's the question: what should we purchase the property for based off of these properties selling at 185, and what repair costs would need to be what needs to be done,
right,
and to get that 185 comp.
Now, I noticed working with you in a couple of deals, you even bring to the table the as-is comps,
right,
where a lot of investors, or should I say a lot of agents, don't even deal with as-is comps to help the wholesaler understand what they can wholesale the property for.
Right, because I mean, if you're looking in an area, so for instance, I learned a while ago from a big wholesaler in Baltimore, something called AIP, average investor's price. And what that is, a lot in some areas you don't have ARV comps but you have a lot of activity in that area. So now, if there's a lot of activity where the properties are being sold, and you know these are investors that are purchasing that property, now you're going to look at what's the average price that these investors are paying for these houses that are in like condition. But the other part to that is, if you're trying to figure out, is one determination of how you can figure out what to, if you're a wholesaler, what to sell that property, or if you want to purchase the property, what should I purchase the property for? So as a wholesaler, you're looking at the AIP and the average price is $40,000. Why would a buyer pay $60,000 for a house where the average price is being sold at $40,000?
So think about that, guys, the AIP, average investor price. Now, I know as an investor-friendly agent, you deal with a lot of different strategies outside of wholesaling. Can you talk about some of the exit strategies that you've been able to instill into your actual clients that you work with?
Of course, one of my big ones is guaranteed rents. That's one, thanks to, this guy that I know named Charles Blair.
Now tell me about the guaranteed rent strategy. What is that strategy?
So the guaranteed rent strategy, if you have a property that has little to no equity in it, right? And this is why the numbers matter. If you have a property that has little to no equity in it, meaning that the seller of the property, they owe on their mortgage, and there's really nothing, they really can't sell the property for a profit. But then you're looking at what the mortgage payments would be. So let's say the mortgage payments is $900 a month.
I got an idea. You actually did a deal that was a guaranteed rent deal. One of the best deals that was structured out there. What can I say? For guaranteed rent. Tell people about that actual deal that you did that can really emphasize how the guaranteed rent strategy works.
So for this particular deal, what happened was, again, they were upside down, so little to no mortgage. And it turned out to be two properties. And with both properties, they were paying $1,700 a month for both properties. And both properties were actually in close to move-in ready condition.
So these are rental properties that there was basically a good condition.
Exactly. And we negotiated, and I told him, I said, look,
you probably want to keep driving around.
Keep driving around? Okay. So the sellers, they were paying 14.
We're just going to stay in the area.
Okay, that's fine.
Because I want to make sure we get this finished.
Okay, that's fine. But the sellers were paying $1,700 a month. We negotiated to where I would pay $1,400 a month. So that means $700 per property a month. One property. So then we looked at the rentals, the rental comps in the area. One property, the rental comps were around $1,500 to $1,600 in rental comps. The other property was $900 in rental comps.
Okay.
So now what happened was I took over the property and controlled it, not owned it, with a master lease for $700 a piece each property.
Now, you took over these two properties, you master leased it out for $700 a piece each property. How much did you give the seller? How much did you have to put down to do the master lease?
$0.
You heard that. $0. So in other words, these properties was properties that the owner what?
They just wanted to try to sell and couldn't.
And they couldn't sell, so those are ideal properties. So he did a master lease. He put the properties up. He didn't have to do any work to the properties, and now he's renting the properties out. Let's continue.
Okay, so now one of the properties, like I said, $1,500 to $1,600 a month, and I ended up actually renting that one property out for $1,525.
So you got $1,525 on one.
Right.
Go ahead.
So now that's $1,525 taking care of both properties that were $1,400 for $700 a piece.
So in other words, the rent from one property covers both properties that you did the master lease on.
Exactly.
And you still had a little small cash flow on that one.
Exactly.
And that's only one of them.
Right, $125.
Okay, so what about the other property?
So the other property, we decided to rent out the rooms.
So you changed the use. It was a normal rental, so you made it into a boarding house with how many rooms?
3 rooms.
3 rooms, okay.
So one room was $600, next room was $550, and the other one was kind of small, so I ended up renting that one out for $450.
So check this out, guys. He just gave you 3 prices of rooms that he rented, and those prices are for the month. So he got $600 a month for one room. How much you got for the other room?
$500.
$500 a month for 100. That's $1,100. And what's the third room?
$450.
So that's a total of $1,550 a month for a property that normally rented for how much?
$900.
So you just created another $550 cash flow.
Well, before the other part.
Hold on. There's more.
There's more. But wait, there's more, right? So then I had someone call me, and they wanted to rent the address, and I didn't know. They said, well, how much would you charge to rent the address?
Now think about what he just said, guys. He said someone reached out to him because they wanted to rent the address. Now he already rented out the rooms, and he already rented out the actual house, both of these houses. So what's renting out the address?
And I charged them $200 a month to rent out the address.
So this was somebody out of state, and they needed a in-state address.
Exactly.
And they pay you $200 a month just to use your address.
Exactly.
So based on those numbers, you're at about $1,800 a month positive cash flow on a property that didn't cost you anything out of pocket because the seller just needed somebody to take over the payment.
Exactly.
That, my friend, is one of the reasons why I love the master lease strategy. I love guaranteed rent, but that's only one strategy that you can help your investors who are looking to work with you with. What are the other strategies you've done for them?
Subject tools, of course, lease with the option to buy.
Now, subject 2 is doing nothing more than creating an actual trust and just assigning beneficiary interest of that trust to the person who wants the property, and that person makes mortgage payments. And what was the other one?
Tenant placement. What else? Even with financing and finding creative strategies with financing. Again, having that network of whether it's a hard money lender, whether it's a lender a broker who has a network of banks that they can call on, and just different things of that nature that help to get the deal done.
And you also said rent to own.
Rent to own, yes.
So what's the rent to own strategy?
So the rent to own strategy is again, well, it's different situations. So like the one situation with property in Owens Mills, she had little to no mortgage, but she wanted to move the property quickly, and it was some work that needed to be done. Not a lot of work, but just a little bit of work that needs to be done. So we had a conversation. I asked her, how much did you need now? And she gave me an amount, and with my client and I, we talked to the seller, and well, we could give you this amount now. Would you be willing to take a series of payments over a course of however many months? And she said, yeah. My client then gave her the money, fixed it up, and with that particular strategy, they actually started to rent the property out. And then what's going to happen is they're going to refinance out of that to get a longer payment, or a longer term and lower payments.
Okay, so you got rent to own, you got subject to, you got guaranteed rent, and I know you help with tenant placement, all that other stuff.
Right.
So in other words, there's not an issue that you really can't solve when you're dealing with the right investor-friendly agent.
Exactly. And let me be clear, because I don't want anybody to think, oh, he does this. Is also about my network. It's not the fact that I'm actually physically doing all of these different things, but part of being the investor-friendly agent is being quote unquote the plug, right? So yes, if I can't do it, my network is already set up for it to be done, to help my clients and maximize their money, maximize their profits, and maximize the potential of what they could do. Last but not least, somebody want to work with Agent Cory Banks, how do you get in contact with you? If you want to work with Agent Cory Banks, Mr. 007, you can call me at 443-380-0182, or you can email me at agentcorybanks@gmail.com. Agent Cory, Agent Cory, I can't get my words out. Agent Cory Banks Agent CoryBanks@gmail.com.
Hey guys, this is Charles Blair, the Mad Scientist, with
Agent Cory Banks.
with another drive-by presentation. Thank you guys, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye-bye.
Lunchtime.